Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. I, Pooja Thakur, welcome all to the Data User Conference of the Periodic Labor Force Survey organized by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation in collaboration with the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. The Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics is one of the oldest research institutes in India. The institute owns a rich legacy of scholars like Dr. Dhananjay Rao Gadgil, Professor V.M. Dandekar, and Professor Nilkantha Rath, amongst others, who have played a pivotal role in shaping the policy making in India. It is indeed an honor to host this conference here today. As we know, the PLFS is a comprehensive survey of households compiled by the National Statistical Office since 2017. It comprises data on various aspects of the labor market, including employment, unemployment, and workforce participation. Today's conference aims to explore the different aspects of the PLFS and encourage stakeholder engagement and facilitate a user-friendly representation of the data. I would now like to invite our esteemed guest, Dr. Saurabh Garg, Secretary of MoSPI, Ms. Geeta Singh Rathod, Director General, National Sample Survey Office, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, Senior Economist and Vice President of the Pune International Center, and Dr. Ajit Ranade, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Institute, on the stage. I would now request the dignitaries to inaugurate the conference by lighting a lamp. It is our privilege to have with us Dr. Saurabh Garg, who is Secretary of the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India. With an impressive career to his side, Dr. Garg has previously served as the Secretary of Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, focusing on the policies for the vulnerable communities. As the Chief Executive of the Unique Identification Authority of India, he led the team for strengthening the technology stack of the Aadhaar ecosystem. His past roles include positions in the Ministry of Finance, where he played a key role in the direct benefit transfer programs and foreign direct investment policy formulation. An officer of the Indian Administrative Services, Dr. Garg holds a PhD degree from Johns Hopkins University, a MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and a BTech from IIT Delhi. We welcome you, sir, for the conference. On the behalf of the Institute, I would now request Dr. Ranade to felicitate Dr. Garg by presenting him a memento comprising of a book written by Mahatma Gandhi on his political guru Namdar Gopal Krishna Gokhale, as well as an edited copy of book comprising the research publications of the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. We also have amongst us Ms. Geeta Singh Rathod, Director General of the National Sample Survey Office at the MoSPI. She hails from the cadre of Indian Statistical Services and is responsible for managing the countrywide large-scale sample surveys. Her work comprises conducting research, designing the sample, field operations, processing and release of the data. She previously served as the head of the National Accounts Division and was responsible for bringing out the estimates of GDP of the country. In addition to this, she has worked with the government in several other capacities, such as Additional Director of the General Survey Design and Research Division, NSSO, as well as the Deputy Director General at the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, as well. I would again request Dr. Ranade to felicitate Ms. Geeta Singh Rathod. It is indeed our honor to have amongst us Dr. Vijay Kelkar, who is currently the Vice President of Pune International Center. Known as the architect of the Goods and Services Tax, he owns a PhD from the University of California, Berkeley, USA. He also serves as the chairman of the India Development Foundation, New Delhi, and chairman of Janvani, Pune. He has worked as the finance secretary to the Government of India and has held various senior level positions in national as well as international organizations. He was the chairman of the Forum of Federations, Ottawa, Canada, chairman of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, New Delhi, chairman of the Finance Commission, executive director for India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Bhutan at the IMF, secretary to the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, Government of India, director and coordinator at the International Trade Division, UNCTAD, to name a few. In January 2011, the President of India awarded him with a Padma Vibhushan, the second highest civilian award for his distinguished and exceptional services to the nation. It is indeed an honor to have you here, sir, and I also request Dr. Ranade to felicitate Dr. Kelkar. We also have amongst us Honorable Vice Chancellor of the Institute, Dr. Ajit Ranade. Dr. Ajit Ranade has a PhD degree from the Brown University, US, and has served as the Chief Economist at the Aditya Birla Group. I will request Professor Anurag Asawa to felicitate Dr. Ranade. We will now begin with the first session of the conference. I invite Ms. Geeta Singh Rathod to set up the context for today's conference.
Respected Secretary Sir, Dr. Saurabh Garg, distinguished guest on the dais, respected participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. A heartfelt welcome to the Data User Conference on Periodic Labor Force Survey 23-24. It's wonderful to see such a diverse and esteemed gathering, policymakers, researchers, data enthusiasts, and experts, all united by our shared commitment to data as a powerful tool for driving positive socio-economic changes. Whether you are here as a person, with us in person or joining online, your presence is very important for today's discussion. I am particularly honored to welcome Dr. Vijay Kelkar, Chairman of the Pune International Center, our esteemed chief guest for today. Dr. Kelkar's visionary contributions have left an indelible mark on India's economic and public policy landscape. Sir, it's truly a privilege to have you with us today, and we look forward for your insights, sir. A warm welcome as well to Dr. Ajit Ranade, Vice Chancellor, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, who has been instrumental in steering this conference. Thank you for your support, sir. We are also delighted to have Dr. Saurabh Garg, Secretary of MoSPI, whose dynamic leadership continues to shape our efforts in delivering timely, high-quality data for informed policy making. Sir, your vision inspires us to keep raising the bar, sir. This conference wouldn't be complete without acknowledging the esteemed participants of representatives from various ministries, research institutes, universities, and international organizations. Your collaborative spirit is what drives evidence-based policy making forward. As to our friends in the media, we truly appreciate your role in ensuring that the insights from today's discussion reach a wider audience. A special thanks to those tuning in via YouTube. Your participation reflects the far-reaching impact of PLFS data. Now let's talk about why we are here today. The Periodic Labour Force Survey has become the cornerstone of our understanding of India's labour market. Launched in 2017, the PLFS gives us the real-time view of employment, unemployment, and workforce participation across sectors. But this data isn't just numbers on pages. It's the story of millions of people, their livelihood, their struggles, and their aspirations. It's a story that guides our policies on job creation, skill development, and inclusive growth. In today's world, where rapid economic change demands swift responses, data is power. And the PLFS data offers that power, granular insights into labor market conditions, enabling policymakers to shape initiatives that directly impact people's lives, employment generation, labor reforms, poverty alleviation. These are not just abstract concepts. They are actions informed by the data we are discussing today. This conference is an opportunity for all of us to dive deeper into the wealth of insights that PLFS offers. We are here not to just discuss the findings, but to explore how this data can be harnessed for better policy outcomes. From understanding informal sector dynamics to identifying trends that can fuel inclusive growth, today's discussion will be the key to shaping the future. Researchers have used PLFS data to examine the relationship between economic growth and employment, gender-wise wage disparity across different sectors, occupation, and it has highlighted the persistent gender wage gap in both formal and informal sector. There have been many studies conducted on effect of COVID-19 pandemic on unemployment, employment, and this data has been used for social protection scheme like Manrega also. And think tanks have used PLFS data to provide insight into labor market policy needs, emphasizing labor laws, minimum wages policies, and social security framework. This is the third data user conference organized by MoSPI this year. These gatherings have proven invaluable in bridging the gap between data producers and the users. I have no doubt that today will be just as productive and insightful. Thank you once again for being here, and I look forward to a day of meaningful exchanges. Thank you.
I now invite Dr. Saurabh Garg for his opening remarks.
Dr. Vijay Kelkar, Dr. Ranade, Geeta Rathore, my colleagues from the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, colleagues from the Gokhale Institute, and all others who are present here today, I assume data lovers and enthusiasts for knowing more about the economy. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here at the Gokhale Institute. I think all of us have heard of the names of Professors Gadgil, Dandekar, Rath, and I think those names will remain etched in the economic books that have always been there. And it's a pleasure to have an old colleague and friend, Dr. Anade, as heading this institute, which I'm sure will continue to do well. So it's a pleasure to be here at the institute. The Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is mandated with producing and developing through a large number of surveys and using data that is otherwise administratively available to provide a broad macroeconomic picture of the country. The data that we publish regularly includes data about the GDP numbers, the growth rates, the unemployment and employment figures that obviously we talk about on the PLFS, which we'll be discussing in greater detail. The inflation numbers, which form the basis for the monetary policy and used for fixing a large number of variables for the financial sector. And apart from that, there's the annual survey of industries, the IIP, the industrial index. We've started recently the survey of unincorporated sector enterprises because there were reports that we are not getting enough data on the informal sector. We are doing a pilot on the annual survey of service sector enterprises because the service sector is such a large portion. And we had not been doing a regular survey of that. In fact, today morning we had a discussion. In fact, all our survey staff from across the country is here in Pune for the next 3 days, discussing on some of the surveys that we'll be taking up in the next few quarters, which includes a forward-looking capital investment survey to look at what is the capex that the private sector would be doing. So essentially our focus is to ensure that the macroeconomic picture, which is used across by global rating agencies, by other forecasters and economists, is something which adheres to international standards, is timely, is reliable, and is of a quality which is acceptable at all levels. Since I'm sitting in the Gokhale Institute, I would also like to mention that we track what is the relative standard error of our estimates very, very closely. And it's among the least. We keep it at 1%, 2%, and that's the kind of statistical relative standard of error that is there in our estimates. And that's the reason why even professionally, these estimates are noted globally. Our focus is, of course, to ensure that we use technology to a much greater extent. Now, we don't have any paper-based surveys. It's all tablet-based, so you have the enumerators going house to house or enterprise to end on a tablet, and they get the data. This data is uploaded on a portal eSigma, so that there is real-time processing. It doesn't need to be then fed in at any level. And this eSigma portal is obviously linked to the cloud, so that it's on a cloud architecture. So this is just one method that I am mentioning. The CapEx survey that we are doing is going to be a web-based survey. It's not going to be an in-person survey, since it's for registered enterprises, registered companies. We are surveying the set of companies which comprise about 80% of the output of that sector, and we have selected a majority of the sectors. I won't say all the sectors, but that will give a very good indication of what's going to be the what's going to be the forecast for capital investment, which is essential ingredient of growth. And especially when we are talking of a Viksit Bharat 2047, and we are talking of a $30 trillion economy. By then, we are talking of an 18,000 per capita per capita income. Growth would be a very, very basic ingredient to ensure, and we need to measure that growth effectively to be able to reach those kind of targets that we are talking about. I think we are one of our in our tagline we call for the National Statistics Office, it's called data for development, and I think that's extremely important. We want to ensure that more and more decision making is data driven. In fact, if you look at the PLFS, just to mention one, in the PLFS 22-23 we had a detailed a question on to determine why the female labor participation rates are still not as high as they are in other places. And two things came out, that a large number of women said because of childcare commitments and personal commitments due to other domestic duties, etc., they are unable to formally participate in the labor force. So if you notice in this time's budget, there are two significant interventions that the finance minister made. One was for increasing the number of working women hostels, so that there are ability that also the issues that they can stay. And secondly, establishing creches across the country along with the Anganwadi system and apart from the Anganwadi system, so that women can more effectively participate. Not that the child care or the care economy doesn't contribute to the social and economic welfare of the country, but to enable those who wish to participate more effectively that they can. One of the areas that we are focusing on to a much greater extent is our outreach. This is one example of that. We want to engage with a much larger number of research institutions, academic institutions, and want their students and students out here to play around with the data that we have. We've developed a portal called e-Sankhiki. If you go to the MoSPI website, you can access it. And all the data is available on the website. You can download it in whatever manner you want. Earlier, a lot of our data was in PDF files or only Excel files and not in a database format. So it would be so much easier for you to query it, sort it, distribute it in whatever manner, and it should help more researchers, and I'm sure more insights will come out of that, which would be useful for policy makers. We have more than 34 lakh records on that, and we are going on populating it week after week to a much greater extent. Apart from this, we've sent out letters to around 40 or 50 institutions which have strong maths, economics, statistics faculty, so that we can do projects with them, and that will help both us to look at areas which have not been looked at, and also the students to know what's happening. I've already mentioned about the use of technology. We also set up a data innovation lab because there are a lot of new technologies, including AI, ML, and all they need is large data, and they can come up with insights, etc. So our focus is to ensure that, given the fact that India has an extremely rich legacy of the statistical system, starting from Professor P.C. Mahalanobis, we need to ensure that this data legacy that we have, we use the latest techniques to ensure that decision making for the next 25 years, for the next Viksit Bharat 2047, that vision that we have, we need to ensure that India is a developed country, and data should be the basis for those decisions. That is what is our aim. And I'm sure with the support of all like this and more such outreach meetings, we will reach there. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. I would now request Dr. Ajit Ranade to share his insights on the same.
Thank you, Dr. Pooja Thakur, my colleague in the faculty. Good afternoon to all of you, and especially Dr. Vijay Kelkar, our chief guest, and guide, mentor, Rishi, shall I call him in Pune, Dr. Saurabh Garg, Secretary, Ministry, and also a co-host for today's program, Ms. Geeta Rathod. Colleagues from the ministry who have taken great pains and to help us organize this event, and my faculty colleagues, most importantly, researchers and students. Today there was a rain cancellation. सुबह सुबह पता चला कि कलेक्टर ने schools and colleges को cancel कर दिया. So there were no classes held today. So, it takes great determination for students to come and for this seminar. So I'm grateful for the students who are here and also those who are watching online. So this is the third in a series, if I may say so. The first one was on the household consumer consumption survey. There was a lot of talk in the newspapers. I don't know if some granular data was released, and of course they had a seminar like this one today. The other one was on the survey of unincorporated enterprises, which are probably something like 60 million, a big number. And some of our colleagues and faculty have actually been working on it. And we actually had a seminar here in Gokhale Institute, if I remember correctly. My colleague, Dr. Lima, is there. Please raise your hand. So I know that one, but there have been several seminars on that data which you released. And this is the third one. So there's been a seminar like this in Delhi. There's one in Chennai and now in Pune. Not Mumbai, Pune. In Gokhale Institute. Okay. So what is the importance of this? I mean, one can't overemphasize the importance of data. For the benefit of some of our friends who have come from Delhi and from the ministry and so on, Gokhale Institute is a 94-year-old organization. I would like to think it's the oldest institute in the country devoted to economics research, one of the oldest. And Mr. Dandekar, whom you mentioned, was actually sort of hijacked away from Mr. Malnobis. He was a statistician, I mean, of course, by training. So he came here, and Dr. Gargil was the founding director. But one of the big traditions, early traditions, has been empirical-based research. So I think that's one of the distinctive features going from the early days. And I believe some of the earliest estimates of income, GDP estimation, if you can call it, but at the district level, was pioneered at Gokhale Institute. And of course, there are many other things. We don't have enough time to go through that history. For example, we have several research centers, such as the Population Research Center, which was set up in 1949. And the country's first family planning unit also was set up here, before the government. And then we have the Agriculture Economics Research Center, which is actually celebrating 70 years this year. So we have a big national conference coming up in December. We have a center for the study of social exclusion, which was set up about 15 years ago to study issues of excluded or marginalized communities, including not just caste but gender and so on. So we have those active centers. We have new centers on geopolitics and public policy and so on. There are quite a few centers. But what I want to say is that this tradition of doing work which is empirically oriented, you'll see that in our PhD research also. A lot of them deal with data. So for us at Gokhale Institute, this is very important to have access to data which is, let's say, granular, relevant, timely, and so on. So as you said, the PLFS, the Periodic Labor Force Survey, as I think was mentioned, Geeta Madam, you mentioned that it was started in 2017. So it's only about 7 years ago that we actually started doing this. Before that, it was quinquennial, once in 5 years. But now I believe, if I may say so, you're going to do it more frequently. And why is labor important? Why is labor force data important? For various reasons. I want to just give you some statistics I just pulled out. And this is, you can read what I mean by that from this data. So in 2018, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, there was a police recruitment for 62,000 posts. 62,000 recruitment for police, UP police. Number of applications, 22 million. Railway Recruitment Board advertisement for Group D staff, basically for assistant locomotive pilots. 90,000 jobs, 25 million applications. Indian Post Office, one of our colleagues is an ex-post office, he's our professor of practice. He might know about this. 700 posts were recruitment, 2.3 million people applied. Chhattisgarh, 13 positions, 2 lakh. So, you read it in the newspaper, nothing. I mean, what am I trying to say? So, jobs, see, labor force is about opportunities for income, opportunities for livelihood. So, unless we know the health of the labor market and what is really happening in real time, how do we understand this mystery? Half a dozen jobs and millions of people are applying. What's going on? This week we learned that India has become the 3rd largest country by economic size in the world, something like that. I don't know how it happens in real time, but basically this week it's like the stock market. But anyway, let's take their word. So now India is the 3rd largest economy. So first is USA, second is China. Now India is, I think, ahead of, I don't know, Japan or something. But if you look at the top 10 economies, if you look at them and look at the per capita incomes, So they start with $85,000 and India is $2,000 or $2,500 or something. So if you go back 30 years, 35 years, India and China had the same GDP, roughly the same GDP size. And therefore their ranking globally in the GDP ranking space was same, something like 100. I forget the exact number. Now 30 years later, 35 years later, India and China have roughly we don't really have the same size, but we still like to think that they're number 2, we are number 3. But per capita India is still ranked 137 in the world. China is now at 69 or 65. So Chinese per capita income has gone to about $15,000, and India's GDP is still about $2,700. What is going on? I think the story is about wages, earnings, labor market. The economic size is increasing, but it's not translating into high quality, high earning, quality, jobs. And of course, the statistics that I mentioned about people applying and, for few secure jobs. Of course, these jobs, you may say they were all, by the way, all the examples I give you were from the government. They were all government jobs. So the security that comes with it, the privilege, the social prestige, whatever. But we really need to understand the health of the labor markets, and I'm happy that this kind of data, periodic surveys, are the way to understand, because ऐसे भी लोग कहते हैं Dr. Saurabh कि आजकल के gig economy and people doing multiple activities बोलते हैं मुझे नौकरी नहीं चाहिए काम चाहिए मुझे नौकरी नहीं चाहिए काम चाहिए I want work, not a job. So that kind of dynamism has to come into the economy. I'll tell you one more thing to illustrate what I'm trying to say. The US is a great economy when it comes to economic watches. There are thousands and thousands of people are doing economic analysis, data collection, so on. So one of the big things they have is labor market data. So every week or every fortnight they have labor market data. And roughly we know that the US unemployment rate is about 5% or 4%. That's the usual stable unemployment rate. Now you may think that 4% of a roughly labor force size of 100 million means 4 million people are looking for jobs, right? So 4% unemployment on a base of 100 million people, I don't know if it's 120 million, some other number, but roughly 4 million people are looking for jobs. But the real fact is, it's not only 4 million people who are unemployed or without a job or looking for a job. The fact is that this labor market frequent data shows that on average, in 1 year, 60 million people, 60, people leave jobs. So job quitting, or people losing their job or quitting is 60 million, not 4 million. But what is happening to those remaining 50 million people, 50, what is happening? They're hopping, job hopping. This is a job-to-job data. So that's called the JOLT, आपने सुना होगा, JOLTS, Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey, JOLTS. But of course, there are other aspects of the economy, what makes the job market or the labor force market very, very dynamic. But we forget that by just looking at the unemployment rate, you might be missing out on the dynamism of the churn in the labor force market. In an economy like the US, every year, 60 million people are losing their job, but also 56 million people are getting new jobs. That's the dynamism of the labor market. And I know I can quote one person, I'm sure many people have said, India has a problem, Mr. Manish Sabharwal keeps saying, that we don't have a jobs problem, we have a wages problem. That we are not able to generate higher wages, higher productivity, higher quality jobs. So all of this I'm saying, giving background sort of macro considerations, why periodic labor force survey is important. I'm hoping that it will be actually very frequent, not just every 3 months. And also I believe doing cities and then rural areas and so on. So because it throws light on what exactly policies do you need in the labor market intervention to create this dynamic job churn, to cater to the increasing needs of the gig economy, multiple activities, kaam chahiye, naukri sirf nahi chahiye. And of course the big mystery, among the G20, India has the lowest labor force participation rate of women. I think it's improved a bit, but it was down to 20%. So only 1 in 5 women of working age are actually working for a paid job. But maybe some of the mysteries because आप किसी ठेले वाले के पास जाएंगे वो भेलपुरी बेच रहा है but पीछे तो who is cutting the onions or in many of these unincorporated household enterprises actually there's a lot of labor input is going in the kitchen or in somewhere else where other people are working, especially the women. In agriculture a lot of activities there which is not paid labor, but it's still, so maybe your labor force survey will capture that. This is the non-paid work contribution. But all of this is a very rich area for research. So I'm very happy that we are hosting this institute today, and thank you for coming here. And many of our researchers, students, PhD scholars, and others will benefit from this. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Subhash Garg, our head of... I hope you don't feel insulted. I beg your pardon because Subhash, we were colleagues in the finance ministry, so somehow that name silly. Dr. Sobra Garg, our distinguished chief guest, and of course the host, and also Dr. Rajanade and Dr. Geeta Rathore, and my two distinguished colleagues on my current sort of avatar, Dr. Professor Pete and Professor Apte, and all friends and students here. I want to thank Pooja Thakur for a very generous introduction. But I got a bit alarmed because she also mentioned about something had to do with the GST. Only day before yesterday, my daughter called me. Our daughter lives in Bangalore. And she said, Baba, what have you done? I said, what happened? Somebody introduced me as a daughter of a person who actually said help GST, and they came to almost beat me up. So next time around, Pooja, just stick to, put it in the center. GST is a bit of an occupational hazard, a little bit. I'm going to take the opportunity to take the presence of Dr. Garg because I'm very impressed by what he is doing in the last 2 years, how he's enlarged the domain and work of his organization to put some more requests in the pipeline for your consideration. And certainly, Pooja, next time if you would introduce me, you missed out the most important thing I'm proud of. I was the president of Indian Statistical Institution, ISI, from where all this thing began, which was created by Professor Mahalanobis, and a great institution of India. So I'd rather be associated with that institution than GST. I think my association with the government ended almost 12 years ago, but a few years ago, Chief Minister of Maharashtra, then Chief Minister Dr. Putra Chavan, entrusted me a very interesting assignment of looking at inter-regional inequality in Maharashtra. And there we really found out, to our disappointment, the degree of deterioration of statistical system state levels. So I would urge MoSPI to extend as much as possible help, because entire action in future years are going to be in local bodies and state governments in terms of improving human welfare. And I think data is, as you said, extremely important, but there, unfortunately, standards have gone down. And it will be great for countries' next phase of development if you can help the state governments to strengthen their statistical system. And one more request, I'm looking at future. A few years ago when Jairam Ramesh was minister, he set up a very important committee called Partho Dashgupta Professor under chairmanship to look at green GDP, if you remember. I was a member of that group, and it was, I think your colleagues helped us. I think it's one of the best reports because Partho wrote it. I really urge you to take it up because given climate change challenges are going to come up, both our development process but also international negotiations, having this greater understanding of will be very important for this government of India. And I would, if your colleagues have not shown the report, I would really request you to get it examined because it was drafted by Professor Dalgupta himself. It's a very high quality analysis and very, very good recommendation. So I would urge you to think about, during your leadership, start, if you can, have a first crack at the green GDP estimates for it. Then the states will follow it up because real, as you said, problems are local environment. But unless you do it, state governments will not be encouraged to do it. So I'll request you to do that. And I was listening to carefully to Dr. Rathore, Dr. Garg, and Dr. Our friend Dr. Ranade. And my DNA is Ministry of Finance, so we're always negative, as you know. The only word we know is no. So what I did find mentioned, maybe it's there, but is really the issue of underemployment. With massive misallocation and underutilization resources taking place to the phenomenon of underemployment, and that is not yet captured as far as I see on data. If some ways you can think of capturing that data, it will be extremely helpful for policy making. So one more request to your consideration, whether you can look at least get estimates of underemployment in different sectors and from different states. And the last point I want to seek your help to help all of us to understand better, because Dr. Ranade mentioned about with somewhat skepticism about India's attainment of the high standards by 2047 as because of Bharat. I think we should start thinking about not measuring, comparing in the current exchange rate, but we start really using PPP exchange rate because that's a real measure of welfare, not the exchange rate which is used. And in India, as you know, non-tradable sector is so large. So I think to understand maybe the PPP basis for GDP will improve the understanding of debate also in the country. And we need not get unnecessarily cowed down by these numbers by just looking at the market exchange rate because that doesn't capture the total power or economic strength or economic welfare of the economy. So maybe, and if it comes under your leadership, it will have at least receive much greater attention and people will start using with care and will not get unnecessarily skeptical of what India can do. I do believe that India can do, and India can do because we start measuring things properly. So with these few remarks and few more shopping lists for the consideration of Dr. Garg and his colleagues, I want to once again thank both the Institute and MoSPI for inviting me to be here. As I said, MoSPI is extremely important part of government, which is not seen as often as it should be, or not as recognized as it ought to be. But I think, and I'm delighted that somebody like Dr. Garg is providing now the new leadership, new dynamism, and I look forward to receive the reports on the new areas which are doing. And with that few minutes of remarks, I wish you all a grand success for this conference. And thank you very much, Pooja. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. And I would once again like to thank all the dignitaries for this session. We will now begin with the next set of presentations. So I would request the volunteers to escort the dignitaries downstairs. We start with the first presentation of the conference, which will be on the survey instruments related to PLFS and some of the key results arising out of the survey. I would like to call up on stage Shri Nilanjan Chatterjee, Deputy Director General of the Household Survey Division at MoSPI. Dr. Nilanjan will be sharing his insights about the same. Before we start with the presentation, I would request Professor Anjali Radkar, Dean Academics, to felicitate Shri Niranjan Chatterjee.
Respected Secretary Sir, respected DG Ma'am, on my respected Professor Kelkar, Professor Ranade, all my senior ADGs and all my other colleagues, research scholars, whosoever are present, all the participants over here. Very good afternoon to everyone. So we all know that periodic labor force survey, that is PLFS, is much talked about and the most sought after survey for all the researchers and policymakers. It is one of the most important surveys of NSSO. And its importance also been described by our, first our DG ma'am and then our secretary sir, the importance of its data. And recently, we have brought out the annual report of PLFS for 23-24, and just a few days back, it has come in the public domain. In this presentation, I definitely will share a little glimpse of the results of this report. But before that, I want to give you some insights about what PLFS is all about, and in other topics. That's why I have just divided my presentation in three parts mainly. And one is initially I start with the coverage, and then the concept definition I will cover in the next part. And then I will little bit of touch up on the points of sample design, and finally I will come to the results. And we'll have a brief results for presentation, because most of the results you will find in the reports. So first I will come to the objectives of PLFS. PLFS will know that, let me tell you in the beginning, the PLFS is not a new survey, it's an old survey, it's starting from 2017-18. So most of the concepts, definition may be familiar to most of the people present over here, but still I will repeat those for those who don't know. And for the interpretation of the results, that will be, I think, beneficial, because concept definition is important, which are actually we adapt in this survey. Mostly this PLFS is mostly, the entire survey is mostly hinged on these three indicators, that is labor force participation rate, worker population ratio, and unemployment rate. In these are the key indicators. Mostly of the results are based on these three indicators. Our classificatory variables are different. And these three variables we calculate, there are actually two approaches. One is the current weekly status, and one is the usual status, that is principal status and subsidiary status. I will just briefly describe what are they actually. And essentially, these current weekly status and the usual status are the measurement techniques of the labor force. And both the two we are capturing through PLFS schedule. And let me tell you that the PLFS normally brings out results for, it is a quarterly result also we bring out for urban areas, and of course in the current weekly status. And the annual report we bring out for both rural and urban. And here, both the usual status and current weekly status results are brought out. So, both the approaches are important. They are a little bit different, but we adapt those approaches. And the coverage of PLFS is the whole Indian Union, except the inaccessible and arduous regions of Andaman Nicobar Islands and the different villages. Whole Indian Union we cover. And the annual sample size is around 12,800 sample sizes. And this time for this, this one is 12,743 we have covered. A number of households in 1,920. Actually, we cover for number of FSUs. I will briefly describe them whenever I will come to the sample design. What is what is FSUs all about, and the households are all about. And the number of persons we have covered in the survey is 4,18,000 on 159. So actually, in this survey, we collect the information person-wise. We go to the household and collect information person-wise. That's how all the persons in the household are listed. And again, we collect information on them, or employment status. Now, the first broad definition is very important, that in PLFS we classify the entire population in three parts. What is worker, and what is unemployed, and what is out of labor force. Worker is those who are actually doing something for pay and profit mostly. This we can call for pay and profit, whatever people are engaged in different employment. And unemployed is those who are actually seeking job or were available for job. These we call as unemployed persons. They haven't got job, but they are ready to take up any job at any time. We call them as unemployed. And those persons who are neither in any job or they are not seeking any job, we call them as not in labor force. So our labor force is constituted by the two categories, as worker and also the worker, and those people who are seeking job, they haven't got job. They also are comprises of our labor force. So if we divide the entire population is two parts, that is labor force and not in labor force. And labor force, essentially there are two parts, one is employed and one is unemployed. Now I will come to the first approach, that is the current weekly status. How by the current weekly status definition. In the current weekly status, the employment is captured through the priority come measured time criteria. That is, whosoever is employed, he will get priority over those who are not who are not employed, and they will also get priority over who are not out of labor force. So that is the priority criteria. And next comes the measured time. Actually, in this case, we collect information for weekly. In weekly status, for weekly, if someone has worked for at least 1 hour, then he will be called as worker. Of course, he has to work for any pay and profit. And those who has also worked but haven't worked due to anything, maybe illness, maybe or something else, but they did have work, so they also will be called as worker. And those persons who are seeking or not seeking or available for work, but they haven't got any work, those they will be called as unemployed. And rest of the person will be out of labor force. This is the current weekly status approach. And next will come the usual status. Here we have two approaches. One is the usual principal status, principal activity status. Here the consideration is the measure time criteria over the last is 365 days, last 1 year. If someone is working for any time, for the last 365 days, more than 6 months or something, then they will be called as worker as principal activity status. And even if they are not working in principal activity status, if someone has worked for at least 1 month for last 1 year in a subsidiary capacity, then also they will be called as worker. So in usual status, even if someone is not called as worker as in principal status, they may be classified as worker in subsidiary status also. So this is just the time reference is different. In these two approaches, we collect information in both the two approaches in PLFS. So this is very important in our for the interpretation of our results also, whenever we will get. Next, I will come the main labor force indicators. These three, I told you that entire the PLFS is dependent on these three indicators. Three major indicators. One is labor force participation rates, LFPR. It is the total number of persons who are in the labor force. With that means the employed person and unemployed person. And the percentage is over the population. The entire population will come in the denominator. And in the worker population ratio, the number of employed person will come in the numerator, whosoever is the employed, and the total percentage of total population who is employed. That we'll call as worker population ratio. And in the unemployment rate, for a change, that is the number of employed person will come in the numerator, but the total person in the labor force, that is total employed and unemployed person will come as the denominator. That means within the labor force, how many persons are unemployed? That is the actually unemployment rate. Now I will briefly touch on the sample design. Here, sample design means I told you initially that normally data is collected. We go to one first stage unit FSU, and what first stage unit FSU is all about. That is the because we have got a frame. We have got a rural frame. We have got an urban frame. In rural frame is comprised by the number of villages as per the 2011 census number of villages. Over 6 to 6.5 lakhs villages are there in our frame. And we all have all the informations, and we collect from a specific sample design that is laid out in PLFS. We get a sample of around 7,000 or something in number of villages we take out from the rural frame. And for urban, NSS has a separate survey called Urban Frame Survey. It is also a 5 years long survey in which we update the information of each and every town. We have got more than 8,000 towns. We keep on collecting information on the 8,000 towns and update the information. And whenever we collect the information of the towns, we divide the towns into 2-3 parts. In first, IV unit, and second is the block. So ultimate block is our main survey unit. That is called the FSU for urban. For urban part, whenever FSU will be termed, that will be called an urban block. That is a small part of a town. So in this way, we can call that in urban frame also. In urban frame also, there are more than 6 lakhs, 6.5 lakhs town, urban block. These are also called. From that, we take 5,000 or 6,000, 5,000 around number of towns as a sample. Our total 1,000, I already told, 12,780. 780. In PLFS sample design, we actually, it is a little bit departure from the other NSS surveys. We adopt a rotational survey design, rotation on panel. Actually, we choose a panel, we select a sample of a panel of 2 years, always a panel of 2 years. Starting from 1718, this tradition is going on. For every 2 years, we collect a sample. And there, for every 2 years, there are 8 quarters. There are 8, we collect sample for, it is a quarterly sample. All independent sample are drawn in quarterly. But we make sure that once a sample is selected, if it is selected and canvassed in 1 quarter, they will be repeated canvass in 3 subsequent quarters. So that's why it is a rotational panel. And so we can tell that for any quarter, the fresh number of FSUs, total number of FSUs is only 25%. If there are 5,000 FSUs are there, only 25% of the FSUs will be new, and the remaining 75% will be revisit of the earlier visits FSUs. So that's how the 75% household remains same in each quarter, and we bring out quarterly result. But the samples are drawn independently of quarter, and finally we also give the annual estimates also based on these samples. And but this, we must tell you that whatever I have told, the concept of revisit is only applicable for rural sample. There is no question of revisit for only urban sample. I am sorry. For rural, there is no issue of revisit. So this is the rotational sample design briefly for PLFS. Now, the last part, I told you that this is when we bring out the results of annual report and also quarterly bulletin. Annual report is the 7th annual report we have just brought out. It's in public domain, the 2023-24 report. And quarterly bulletin we bring out regularly on quarterly basis within 2 months to maybe less, 1.5 months. 23 quarterly bulletins we have already released. Our latest bulletin is the June 2024, and the next is already coming. And now, before coming to the last part of my presentation, that is the survey results of 23-24, I must say that what are the main estimates we generate from the PLFS data. Main estimates I told you, that is LFPR, WPR, and UR. And the second is these estimates also we give, the indicators we give on the basis of NIC 2008 and also NCO occupation of classification, national classification of occupation for 2015, and distribution we also give the worker of distribution as per the NIC 2008 and NCO 2015. And there is also a status of employment, that is a major thing, which is what is self-employed, regular wage and casual labor, how much are there, the percent share of workers in terms of the status of employment is also given in the report. And the earnings from employment of an hours worked, of definitely how many hours they have actually worked, that also we capture in current weekly status. And conditional employment, paid leave, job contract, and social security benefits. These also, some of the all of information we don't collect in all the approaches, but in usual status also we collect these: paid leave, job contract, social security benefit, how people are enjoying the workers. So these also we capture, and based on that we also generate our report. And of course, what Madam has told also, that is share of informal sector. This is all we actually called. There is one enterprise type is there, and proprietary and partnership, the two enterprise types that constitute the informal sector. That we also bring out our tables on the informal sector also through PLFS data. Next, I am coming the results. Only a few glimpses I also I am going to show, because rest of the results are there in the report. It is in public domain, and unit level data is also there in the public domain. You can download and generate your estimates, and report is also there. First, I am coming the LFPR over the years, 15 years and above. 15 years and above LFPR in usual status. You can see an increasing trend in LFPR in both the in the male, female, and also in person. An increasing trend can be shown, starting from 49.8 in 1718. Now it has grown to 60.1. The LFPR is increasing both in male and female. Maybe it is lagging, but still it is increasing substantially. I told you that is LFPR is the total labor force and out of the total population, no person in the labor force. You can see the chart. This is an important chart, and this is only 15 years and above. We also generate on other ages, but this is 15 years and above given. Now it is worker population ratio. Definition I told that is the number of workers in the total population, and here also we can see an increasing trend. Worker population ratio is growing from 46.8, now it is 58.2, it's total. It seems the age restriction is still there, 15 years and above, we are giving all the estimates. And for male also it is increasing, for female also it is increasing. This increasing trend can be seen. Next I am coming the unemployment rate, which is very important. And unemployment rate, I told you, that is the within the labor force, the share of unemployment. How many people are unemployed within the labor force, that is unemployment rate. And we can see a good thing, that is a declining trend in unemployment rate. Although for the last 2 years it has been little stagnant, pegged at 3.2, but still we can find a declining trend in unemployment rate. In male also it has declined. There's a slight increase in female, but mostly for volume on more male and female put together, it is poised at 3.2. Also last year was also there, though it is a little bit stagnant, you can say, but mostly you can find, if you consider from 17-18, we can find a declining trend for unemployment rate. Now, coming to the status in employment, what actually has told that we are working, but it doesn't mean that we are all engaged in the salaried job, because what Sarah has also told, that we want to work. It's not that on the salaried job everything is we always want. But here we can find this, it is corroborated by our result also. That is mostly you can find that in rural male and rural female is dominated by the self-employed person. Self-employed person in rural male is 59% and 73%. And the other two parts are regular wage and casual labor. They are a little bit varying over the male and female. And in male, we can find that casual labor is little high, and in female, we'll find that the regular wage is little high in respect of, but mostly in female is dominated by the self-employed. So this is the distribution of rural male and female in terms of the status in employment. Next is the urban male. The same scenario can be seen, that still it is here also it is dominated by the self-employed persons. But as expected in urban male, the next dominance is for the regular wage salaried, and next come the casual labor. For female is also is like this, 42% of regular wage, 42% is for regular wage for urban female, and only 8% is for casual labor. Urban is a little bit less than male. Male is little less than female. Naturally, it should be, and but the major pie is for the self-employed persons. So this is the status in employment for male, rural and urban. We have seen. Now, the status of employment, we can, for all India, we can see over the years how it is growing. You can see an increasing trend of self-employed over the years. Starting from 52.2 in 2017-18, now it has risen to 58.4 in 23-24. So there is an increase in self-employed, and regular wage salary, it is little bit volatile. At times it is increasing, and maybe at times it is decreasing. And casual labor also, we can find a declining trend, a steady declining trend. And casual and self-employed is increasing. You can see the graph. And I am last coming to the last indicator, which is by industry-wise. Industry-wise, the distribution of worker. Industry-wise distribution, we can find that here the dominance is in agriculture. Most of people are agriculture, and we can see this increase in share of agriculture over the years from 44.1 it is to 46.1, and followed by the manufacturing, trade, hotel, restaurant, construction. These are the major constituents, and other service leave it alone. But the agriculture, manufacturing, and trade, hotel, and construction, these are the major contribution. They have the major contribution in the percentage share of workers in the as per the industry. So you can see over the trend of this distribution over the years from 17-18. So that's all from my side.
Thank you, sir. We'll take the question and answers at the end of the sessions. Yeah. We will now proceed with the next presentation. I will invite Shri Tarak Chandra Patra, Deputy Director General of the Economics and Statistics Division, NSSO MoSPI, upon the stage. We welcome you, sir. Shri Patra will discuss the measures used for ensuring the quality of the data and also present an understanding of how the PLFS data can be used for the purpose of analysis. Before we begin with the presentation, I would like to request Dr. Shiva Reddy to felicitate, Professor K.S. Hari to felicitate Shri Tarak Chandra Patra.
Very good afternoon to all distinguished guests and eminent data users who are present both in offline mode and online mode. In the previous presentation made by my friend about the results of PLFS 23-24, so to produce the good quality of data, what are the measures that NSSO has taken. So I will broadly cover this, what are the measures NSSO has adopted in this PLFS survey, and then I will discuss on the unit level data that is available in our portal, how to comprehend that with our questionnaire, and then what is the importance of multiplier and how to use it to calculate different indicators from the PLFS unit level data. So, what are the measures that NSSO has adopted for producing good quality data? By adopting the modern IT technology in the form of eSigma digital platform. Then another important aspect that NSSO has very carefully and thoroughly finalized to reduce or to minimize the non-sampling error. That is the finalization of survey instruments. So finalization of survey instruments, and then the survey instruments, questionnaire, itemization of the questions, all those things are deliberated through different expert groups so that the non-sampling error can be minimized. And after finalization of these, along with the validation points, so those are thoroughly checked and implemented in developing the digital platform, and it has been tested thoroughly before before the survey is launched. And then I will discuss a little bit of the PLFS CAPI features, which ensures minimization of non-sampling error, and in turn improving the data quality. And the digital platform also provides the facility of having the multiple layers of data checking independently at both micro level and macro level for ensuring improved data quality. So let me tell about the digital platform eSigma, which is during the inaugural session, our secretary sir mentioned about the eSigma, that is a cloud-based modular system integrated with many modules, which transformed the data collection process from PAPI mode to CAPI mode, ensuring improved data collection, faster data transmission and processing, which has enabled NSSO to produce good quality data in reduced time. So I will touch upon, there are many important modules that has been there, those are there in eSigma platform. I will discuss only few things, few modules which helps in minimizing non-sampling error as well as ensuring data quality. One is the CAPI module, the features that we will discuss later in the next slide, and the dashboard. Dashboard is the module which enables all our NSSO users, all the stakeholders of NSSO to manage and monitor the survey process on a real-time basis. So all the users starting from the regional office level up to the headquarter level of field operations division, as well as our data processing the offices and our household survey divisions, all they can monitor the survey work. And then another important module is the field query where our enumerators they can raise questions through this, and also all the approved field queries along with the FAQs, all are available in the wall of this module, so that the enumerator can very easily can see if when they are in the field, if they are having any doubt. And another module is self-learning module. Self-learning module is also contains the short videos and detailed instructions, which also those are kept as a ready reference for our field personnel, and it can be accessed by other users also. And now I will tell a brief about the features that PLFS CAPI has. Actually, PLFS is the first survey that was launched in a digital platform in eSigma. It has many features. I am telling only the main features. Those ensures improved data quality. It has many inbuilt validation checks in the form of hard checks. Hard checks are nothing but the errors that the enumerator may commit at the time of data collection by entering wrong entry. And the CAPI will prevent the enumerator not to proceed further until and unless it has been resolved. So in this way, it has actually eliminated the error that may be committed by the enumerators. And soft checks basically triggers the alert to the enumerators when they are collecting the data if there is something, if something goes wrong. And one of the unique feature of this CAPI is that all the soft checks or warnings, those are kept in this CAPI, that can be checked, and all these should be attended by the enumerators as well as different level of users for ensuring data quality. And another unique feature is the integration of the listing schedule. That is, actually in our NSS surveys, we have two types of schedule. One is after reaching to the that area that we call first stage unit. In that first stage unit, we after reaching there, we prepare the frame of all the structures and households. And through CAPI, through this CAPI, actually, we then, based on certain criteria, we form the households in homogeneous groups, and then we select the households through this CAPI. So all the human intervention that we used to put during our PAPI mode of data collection, so all those are taken care of by CAPI, and thus it has minimized or eliminated the chance of errors by the human intervention, as well as it has saved lot of time and effort by the data collection, the enumerators who collect the data. And both online offline canvassing facility is there. Also it captures GPS and timestamp. And when data is synced to the server, as I mentioned that eSigma is a cloud server architecture. So once data is synced to the server, then it is available for scrutiny at next higher level officials, and it can be scrutinized by using both the Windows version of the CAPI as well as Android version of the CAPI. So which ensures improvement of data quality through, as I mentioned, the multiple layers of checking. And training and capacity building, that is also another important feature of our NSS, which helps in improving the quality of the enumerators who will be going to who are going to the field and collect the data, by which in turn reduces the non-sampling error. And now I will explain the unit level data that is available in the portal. In this in the next few slides, I will explain where data is available, how to download the data, in which format data is available, and how to map the data with our metadata documents, and finally the most important thing, that is how to extract the data. So this is the portal. If you visit our MoSPI website, there you see there you can see this in the right hand side screen. You can see the documentation part where our all the metadata documents, details of metadata documents are available. And if you click the get microdata, then all the unit level data will be available. So what are the documents that are available in our portal? That is the instruction manual, and then schedule of inquiry, and then estimation procedure. And the important part is the data layout, which actually maps the data with the questionnaire. And in this data layout, in the next slide, I will explain what are the the details about the content of this data layout. The Excel file, one Excel file is given, and the README is the instruction to the users. And I request all the data users to go through the README very carefully before extracting the data and before start analyzing the data. And the final part is the new initiative that NSS has taken for this PLFS 23-24. That is, this tool is available. If you see below the other materials, under the other materials heading, there you see one application is given, that is TXT to CSV conversion program for PLFS 23-24. This is the first time in our NSS we are providing one tool for extracting the data from the text format into CSV. So that will be of great help, I think, to the data users. So data is available in text format in two levels. One is household level and another one is person level. For both the first visit and revisit. The first visit and revisit part has been explained in the previous session. And this is the data mapping. Actually, we have, if you see the left screen, there you see the questionnaire for all the items are there. Then from there, actually, we have the data layout, that is the Excel format. There we describe all the items, all the details of the items and their block and which item in the questionnaire, and then what is the length of the data if you open the data in any text editor. Suppose if I talk about the first item, that is serial number of sample block, which means the first stage unit. So first stage unit, if you see the Excel layout, that is available in serial number 13. So which means the block 1, item 1, and its length is 5. It starts with 29th byte position, it ends up to at 33 byte position, and which is highlighted in yellow color in the bottom screen. So in this way, we can map the data and we can comprehend and we can understand the unit level data. And the most important feature of this year's PLFS unit level data, and it is available in the portal. This is developed by our in-house team for data extraction. So data extraction program that is there in the data layout. If you download the data layout, there are 4 sheets available. One, the names are HHV1, PRV1, that means HHV1 means household level, visit 1, the explanation of all the CSV fields mapped with our questionnaire, and similarly in the person level file for both the first visit and revisit. So what you have to do is, from the portal, you download all the data, unit level data, as well as this exe program that is available in zip format, and the data layout. So place all these unit level data, this data layout, as well as this program in a single folder after extraction of this from the zip file, and then simply double click on this program. It will take few seconds to generate the CSV file with the same name, HHV1, that indicates the household level file for visit 1, and PARV1, that means person level data of visit 1, similarly for revisit. So this is the new initiative, and that is applicable only for PLFS 23-24, and this CSV, if you open in any text editor, all the headers will be available, and the headers are explained in the layout of the Excel file. So I think that will help you to import the data in any kind of statistical package for data analysis. And now I will explain in brief about the multiplier. What is multiplier? Basically, multiplier is a design-based OS that we have that we calculate based on the sampling design, which is used for estimating the population parameters based on the sample observations. And in this, in the next few slides, I will explain how to use multiplier to get the indicators, and what are the important fields of the data structure. In PLFS, actually samples are drawn independently for each quarter in the form of 2 subsamples. And in the unit level data, the important fields are the NSS, that is the sample counts, subsample wise sample counts, and NSC, that is the combined sample count, and MUL means the multiplier that we have posted in the data. All these are available along with another field, that is the NOQTR. So the multiplier, before using it for estimating any population parameter, we have to adjust the multiplier. Multiplier is expressed in 2 places of decimal to reduce the rounding of error, or rather to increase the accuracy of the estimate. We normally divide it by 100 if the estimate is coming from the one subsample, and if it is coming from both the subsample as per the theory of the interpreting subsample of Mohl-Novice theorem. So we have to take the simple average of these two subsamples if the estimates are coming from the two subsamples. That's why we divide it by 2. So 100 is there for since the multiplier is in 2 places of decimal, that's why 100 is divided, and 2 it will be divided by 2 if estimates are coming from the 2 subsamples. And NOQTR means, as you know, that samples are drawn independently for all the for each quarter. If the estimates are coming from for the 4 quarters, then NOQTR will be 4. If it is from the 3 quarters, then it will be divided by 3. So this NOQTR field also available in the text data. So now I will explain one indicator. There are important indicators of the PLFS surveys: LFPR, WPR, and UR. So I will explain how to compute LFPR using our unit level data. So basically, if you see the unit level data, to calculate the labor force participation rate, here I am showing in CWS. So basically, from unit level data, we have to identify from the person level data file of first visit to identify all the persons who are who belong to the labor force, and then we have to multiply the weight and take the sum. Then we will get the estimated number of persons in the labor force, and then the denominator is the estimated number of population that is coming from this based on the sample observations. So if you see the left screen, what are the status codes that you have to consider? That is the persons who worked in the household enterprise as a self-employed persons on own account worker. That means the status code 11 of the unit level data. The persons who worked in the household enterprise as a self-employed person as employer, that is the status code 12. So like that, so 11 to 82, all those codes we have to, the persons having these codes we have to extract and multiply the weight, and then basically this is a person level record. So person level record, all the multipliers are there. We have to identify based on this code and adjust the multiplier to get the final weight and take the sum. Simply take the sum, that will give you the estimated number of persons in the labor force. Similarly for total number of persons also. So suppose after extracting the data in a data analytical package, so these are the person serial numbers, and then the gender code is there, and then our CWS is available in the data file. As I have explained in the previous slide, how to get the final weight, which is, I am denoting it by W1, W2, W3 like that, by adjusting the multiplier, dividing it by NOQTR multiplied by 100 if NSS equal to NSC, as I have explained earlier, or otherwise multiplier will be divided by NOQTR into 2 into 100. So in this way we have to first compute the weight, and then based on that condition, just we have to take the sum and then divide it as by I mean the numerator and denominator. In this way we have to compute and then divide it to get the LFPR. And this PLFS design is there only to get the all India estimates and state level estimate, not below that. So please keep in mind that we can go up to the state level, not below that. So our data analysis using the PLFS, we should do the analysis up to the state level, not below that. So that is why I am emphasizing here. And that's all my with my presentation. I'm concluding here. Thank you.
We now begin with our first set of panel discussion regarding enhancing the stakeholders' engagement as far as the PLFS data is concerned. Shri Nilanjan Chatterjee will be moderator for this session. I would request Shri Chatterjee to please come up on the stage. Yeah. We have amongst us Dr. Rosa Abraham from the Azim Premji University as one of our distinguished panelists. Dr. Rosa has done extensive research on informal work and women's employment. She has been actively involved in various projects conducted by the Center for Sustainable Employment at the Azim Premji University. We welcome you, ma'am. Our next panelist is Professor Anurag Asawa from the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. Professor Asawa specializes in econometrics and statistics and has been extensively using the PLFS data for his research. He will be sharing his insights of how the PLFS data has been used at the institute today. We also have with us Dr. Kiran Limaye, who has worked as a consultant to design several primary database studies and also used PLFS data for research. He is currently an assistant professor at the Center for Excellence in Entrepreneurship and Development at the Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. Before we formally begin with this session, I would request Dr. Shiva Reddy to felicitate the panelists. Professor Asawa. Dr. Kiran. Thank you, Dr. Reddy.
Good afternoon once again. We are now starting the panel discussion. The topic is the enhancing the stakeholders engagement. This is we have got 3 panelists over here. They will have their deliberations on the topics. Some of the topics we have chosen. I would like to start with Dr. Rosa Abraham. Madam, she is from, I think, Azim Prem University, Bangalore, assistant professor. And her introduction was already been given by ma'am. Now, I will request her to cover the topic that as a stakeholder, what do you think is required to be done to enhance the coverage of PLFS? So this would be your topic, ma'am. Please come in.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here and meet with all of you. The MoSPI and particularly PLFS has been something that I've used a lot during my research and also as a faculty now. And it is something that I always have seen with a sense of admiration and pride. And I think something that I usually always convey to my students as well. So it really is a great honor to be a part of this. And as an organization, what the MoSPI stands for is something that me as a citizen that I'm very proud of, and as a faculty and researcher also something that I'm very proud of. And I must applaud the MoSPI for the lot of changes that have happened since the beginning of the PLFS. And in particular, the release in the CSV format has been greatly appreciated, as well as the very, very quick turnover that's happening. And we're getting these very high frequency indicators as well. Having said that, as a user, a couple of requests and perhaps a wish list of sorts. So one thing is maybe just to take off from where we left off with the last presentation, is that the coverage of the PLFS is spatially limited to states. And as we know in India, a lot of the action really happens at the sub-state level, particularly at the district level. So one request is perhaps to consider how we can get at a little slightly more granular data spatially. One potential way to think about this is maybe hark back to the EUS time, where we had the thick sample as well as a thin sample. So if perhaps the idea of getting a district level estimate is an arduous task on a yearly basis, we could think of not as high frequency measures, but maybe 5-yearly measures which are representative at the district level. This is particularly important because a lot of the labor force dynamics, whether it's job flows or even women's employment, really vary spatially within states. And the other reason that I would also push for this is increasingly we're also getting a lot of MIS data from other arms of the government, and having this kind of granular information will really help for these different data sets to speak to each other. So that's one request which is on the spatial dimension. The other request is really on temporal dimension. So we have moved to slightly more frequent data, and as I understand, there is also the intention to move to even more frequent data, which I think is fantastic, and I really look forward to that. But if that is the direction that that is being undertaken, then my request is to think about what is the use of the high frequency data. So we do have a lot of anecdotal information around volatility in the labor market, a lot of transitions, a lot of flux amongst employment. If you look at PLFS and even the US data sets over time, and you look at the structure of the Indian labor market by regular salaried work, casual wage work, and self-employment, that structure has more or less remained unchanged. There has been some movements, especially with the recent increase in self-employment, but broadly you'll see that it's a fairly unchanged structure. But what that hides is the huge transitions in job flows. So if we are thinking about a high frequency or more frequent data, then the direction to think about that data is not just about employment status changes. And the reason I say this also comes from, if you look at PLFS panel, there's not much flux if you look at employment status, but there's also clear evidence that there is huge job status. So it would be great if the idea is to go down to more frequent measures to think about how we can get at job flows. One reason I also want to push for this is that we've been speaking as part of our work at the Center for Sustainable Employment at the university. We've been speaking with a lot of employers as well as organizations that hire or subcontract, create subcontracting work. So these third-party agencies. One of the statistics that they gave us was that they have an 8% turnover of their workforce every month, which is to say that at the end of the year, effectively, you're working with an entirely new pool of workers. And a simple employment status of salaried work would not capture that kind of attrition and job flux that actually is very, very characteristic of a large part of the Indian labor market, and not just the casual labor market. It is actually a characteristic of the salaried labor market, particularly with things like the gig work and so on. We could potentially get at this at some level if we combine industry, occupation, and concatenate the two of them and then identify that as a job. But even there are limitations with how much we can infer from that kind of a fine aggregation. So a question would be, have you changed employers in the last quarter? Have you changed, or if it's the month that you're talking about, have you changed your place of work as well? Would get at some level of this kind of job attritions and job flows as well. Talking about employers, I think we do have some information on the employer type, which is the whether it's informal or not, the enterprise type. We also have whether the employer provides social security benefits. I think it would also be helpful if certain information around amenities at the workplace, what is the quality of employment, besides just these kind of benefits that would be collected. How frequently are wages being paid? Are they getting it regularly? Because a lot of regular salaried work, payments are not often received regularly. So even a simple question asking about the whether money is being received regularly would also get at some of this kind of erosion of regular salary that we are seeing with other kinds of indicators. I was also really happy to see that a lot of questions have been added over, successively with PLFS. One of these questions was around job search, which is for the unemployed workers. The question is being asked on how they are seeking work. It would also be helpful if we could have information on, for the employed workers, how did they come about, how did they find this job? Because a lot of information, again, that jobs are being found through local networks, through families. It would be useful to kind of have some kind of empirical evidence to qualify this as well. My final point is around the measurement of women's work. I was extremely happy to see that there has been a new question that is added, which is looking at the how much of the produce for a self-employed worker, how much of that is actually being for own use consumption, how much of it is actually for sale in the market. This really brings our estimates very, very close to what the ILO's ICLS definition requires, where they've clearly made a distinction between, in the forms of work category, between work and employment. So by using this indicator of how much of employment is really production of goods for own use production, we can actually get a sense of how much of women's employment is potentially qualifying as work rather than employment. So I think this is a great addition. My few requests, and this is based on some of the work that we have done, which is that women's work is typically underreported. And the underreporting comes from multiple sources. One of this is when they are being proxy reported. So other members in the household report on behalf of the woman, it gets underreported. But the other reason it gets underreported is when you speak to the woman themselves, for a woman, her primary identity is often not as an economic agent, but mostly as somebody who is just contributing to the household. So a simple fix, and we've done a few surveys to kind of test this, is simple calling out questions. So did you in the last week engage in salaried work for at least an hour? Did you in the last week help in the family farm of business? When we actually tried out these kind of calling out questions, there was a huge increase in women's employment rate capturing. So with that, I think it's also important to kind of add to some of these questions as well, and to get at measurement of women's work. I think it's great to be here, and one final request as a user also would be, I think there's a few degrees of separation between the user and MoSPI, and I know these are initiatives to kind of close that degrees. It would also be nice to have some kind of email or contact or persons or somewhere that we could write to or reach out to get clarifications on some perhaps fundamental questions. But usually this is happening within the research community, but it would be great to integrate the MoSPI also in that conversations as well, very organically. Thank you again.
Thank you, ma'am. You have actually, thank you for appreciating PLFS initially, but you have given very wonderful suggestions. And let me assure you that the concern you have expressed that regarding the coverage of PLFS beyond the state level and also the increasing the frequency, let me assure you that NSSOE is seriously contemplating about this, and definitely we will come out with some solutions. And some of the improvements you have suggested for PLFS, that is well taken, we'll keep in mind. But you will have to keep in mind that NSSOE is we have a schedule where the person level information is being collected. We have to keep the respondent, as if we extend the schedule like beyond anything, so too many information we collect, ultimately it will extend up more than 1 hour or 2 hours. So that's also we keep in mind. That's why the schedule, only the most important information which are to be collected, we try to collect those, but still we will keep it in mind. My next panelist is Professor Anurag Aswa, and the professor of this Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics. I think I am welcoming him. I think, and I request him to cover the topic. This topic will be, what do you think MoSPI can do to encourage collaborative engagement with its users and stakeholders in general and with PLFS in particular?
Thank you, sir. I am really privileged for allowing me to discuss the things about PLFS, which we started almost 2.5 years back. And now we have extensively using it. And generally, as an economics student, I used to tell them, okay, look, when you want to go for a data, 50%, 60% time you have to pay about the data, and PLF is a free of cost. So that you should keep in your mind. And when we talk about other data sets which are available comparative to the labor about CPHS, where the cost is very high, and then the size of data which we are getting in PLFS is enormous. And the way we are collecting data with first visit, revisit, and the rotational panel, which is really where we can have the dynamism of the things which we can catch it up. And like I was letting her know, okay, because you were the first speaker, so you have already taken care of all the points which we would have collected to discuss all these things. But still, I will be having some more detail about how we are using and how we are promoting and collaborating with the students to use the PLFS data. So I will be just narrating the story which we are doing out. When we started working on PLFS data in Gokhale Institute, really it was a struggle time, but she was telling us, okay, this getting the data into the normal format. CSV we will be getting now first time, but getting the 17, 18, 18, 19 data was really a tough time for us. But that make us learn, okay, why we should not make a system where anybody who wish to work on the PLFS data should be available to them. So, sir, I would like to attract your attention. We have worked on that, and we have created a Google, I will say, Google Sheet, where anyone in the country who wish to work on any size of the data, let's say any year of 17, 18, first visit, revisit, household level data, and the individual data, all data set we have put in the Excel format for public use. So anybody who wish to use on that data, every data is available up to state level. So that work we have done for the collaboration, and we have done a few seminars and conferences where we make people learn, okay, if you want to use over here, and this data set is available. And the way we use this data, at least in the lecture room, in the class, etc. So this is one assignment, and 2 assignments are already fixed from our side. Okay, look, this is the data, this is the questionnaire. We provide them the detail about all these things, but we do not ask from our side any question to be asked. These questions are being created by the students, and they are coming back to us, okay, look, we are working on this, is it good or bad? So this is how we are trying to make people aware, and our students aware, okay, how the PLFS data can be utilized. And the 2-3 things about the collaboration, what I feel somewhere, the popularization of the data, where when we see about the papers people are using, papers are writing, and the type of data they are using. So those few of the institution, I should use the name of ISTS data or CMI data, any paper come out from that data set which are available on their website, and they really put in emphasis, look how many people are using this data set, and they are coming with the paper, and those paper can be accessible without any issue. So those, if we can put those papers which is coming out of PLFS, it really help everyone. Okay, what are those topics on which people are using the PLFS data, and what other analysis can be done with this, and with the AI tools, etc. available, this is very easy to get it down. And about the connectivity, when we have so many issues, so naturally we have to go to our peer group only, okay, look, I am working on this is a problem we are facing. And then sometimes we feel we don't have any answer with the researcher. So like chat box type of thing, type of thing can be started, so that when we can write our queries over here, when we can put the problem over here, and we can get answer from the house out. So this is what we can do. And about the data, now few points we were talking about, the data were available in some specific format. Now it is in CSV. I hope it will be very helpful. But generally when we want to work on data, the matching the household data with the individual data is still a challenge. So somewhere if we can have a methodology given by the MoSPI itself, okay, look, this is what the data set, and this is how you can go one by one. I hope it will really help us out. Otherwise, matching those importance, okay, how household is coming with the individual, sometimes it is really difficult. And few things about, because we are working on social security in the institute, and when we try to understand, because this is the only one data set, I should congratulate to MoSPI. When we talk about social security, it has been a discussion in last 10 years, but no actual data available everywhere, how many are getting the social security, and that is available over here. But sometimes what happens when options are given over there, they are clubbed. And many of the time when we want to find out, okay, how many are actually getting the maternity leave, how many are actually getting the PPF, etc., which is not coming exclusively. So when we want to suggest something, okay, these are the area where the people are getting the benefit, people are not getting the benefit, are missing over there. If we can add something on that, or we can say have exclusive numbers, it will really help us out. Beyond that, again, when we talk about how we can connect with the industry and the like market data, where generally these data has been taken with our student, when we talk about them, okay, let's start working on PLFS data. Sir, it is academic data. We would like to go in the like in corporate world. So somewhere that those we can say questions can come up, little bit of one or three questions given how it is connected to the industry, and we can tell people industry, look, this is the situation in the labor market. This is what the availability of there. If you need something more like different level of education, different geography, we can have those interaction with them, which we are doing. He's going to discuss about all these issues, how we are connected with the industry, and we are providing those information about the, it may be PLFS, we are working using the data on the WASH, we are using the data on the employability, we are doing the uses of entrepreneurship. So these are the few points which we had, and the majority of the points she has already covered. But thanks for giving the opportunity, and I will again congratulate the type of data which we get from here. And now the way you are making the things easier, I hope it will be really helpful for everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Aswa. You also appreciated our work. That is a great thing for us, and very. And but some of the issues we have flagged, that the size of the data is enormous. Okay, that definitely, because since we have a sample design where the revisit is also in function, because we need to disseminate the data more frequently. It is a quarterly basis. Again, we are thinking even more frequently we are going to bring out. So in case from sampling design, we will contemplate and how, but the data size will be definitely big. In fact, in our other household survey, data size is bigger. If you go by consumption expenditure survey, so household size, so data size will be bigger. And the other suggestions you have whatever you have taken regarding the social security benefit options are clubbed and this thing, that we will see. You can give us the suggestions officially what kind of things we can have a interface meeting, and then we can think of how much we can incorporate in our schedule. So next, I think our last panelist is Dr. Kiran Lime, Assistant Professor of the Center of Excellence in Entrepreneurship and Development, GIP, and he will be covering as a user, the stakeholders. What do you think about the PLFS data? This is the, I think, topic for you. Please.
Yeah, first of all, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. It's like a very broad theme. I will just illustrate how I came to use the PLFS data. I work with Center for Excellence in Entrepreneurship and Development, and basically I was searching for a source of information that tells me about entrepreneurs in India. And what I realized is the status of employment provided in PLFS allows me to focus on entrepreneurs if I look at employers. So that's how I begin looking at the PLFS data. So I will first of all raise a slightly technical point, and I understand that it's possible to perhaps resolve it beyond like raising it here, and also there is a clear warning given in every PLFS report that it should not be used below a state level. But still I raise it. One is such a large data always provides some interesting indirect samples, subsamples, right? For example, this sample of employers in India. Now, as a user, I am little uncertain that is it representative of employers in India, because it is not really a sample drawn out of employers in India. It's like we indirectly achieved it out of the samples of households in India. So employers might not be distributed in same proportion as population or other attributes through which PLFS sample is designed. There are indirect sampling methods, and I have been reading the literature, but considering the knowledge prowess that exists at what you do, perhaps some guidance on how one can use such national indirect samples might be very useful, because the researchers will be looking at this large body of data and would like to do things beyond the broad indicators of labor market. So yeah, that's something is my first point as a user. The second point that's already made by the panelists before is to look at state subsamples. I will say that when we think of labor market data, we are looking at labor, but we also should look at the right market, we cannot miss the metropolitan cities, which are a kind of very important sort of labor market. So perhaps the 4 or 5 broad metropolitan cities, we can try to think of having a sample that represents situation there, because they also kind of show things like that at the cusp or at the pinnacle of whole scenario. So that's one point, means the district level sample will be great, but I understand like how burdensome it can be. A few other points that means you mentioned that it's already a big survey and adding questions is something that can be a challenging, but if we can identify disability, the individuals, whether they are having any disability or not, that can provide a good glimpse. It's a small population, 2 or 2.5% of the whole, but their labor force issue or employment issues are pertinent and often they lack the constituency like to get those. And last 10 years, there have been really some great changes for this particular set of individuals, and having them kind of seen through PLFS would also be a great thing. We just have to look at the individual module and capture whether the person is like registered with any disability or not. I hope that might not be a great burden in collecting the information. And yeah, the other points are already mentioned. For example, this whole the labor force participation also has a lot of other interesting phenomena around with it, like the several transaction costs that people have to incur to be in the labor market, like commuting or many other costs. If some sort of way one can get it, especially in urban market, commuting is an important sort of component of that labor market participation. Many points have already been raised, but only with the mention of these few points, I will stop here, and I will really thank you again for organizing this particular event and giving me chance to say my points. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lima. Let me tell you that in NSO sampling design, we don't have actually district as a stratum. NSS region is the stratum, so we cannot go beyond the state level. That's why we generate district level estimates. And whatever you told, our stratification is based on the made of the education level of 10th pass standard. So that's how we have made our stratification, second stage stratification. So whatever you have told that we collect those information about labor or employment, that at the stage of whenever we are canvassing the household, then only we are getting into the households. Otherwise, we will have to collect the information at the listing of the household stage. Where the information that is a little bit difficult for us because we will not get may not get the exact information. In listing, we want to stick to those information only which can be easily achieved with one question or something. And the disability include some disability in PLFS. I should tell you that you may be aware that NSSO has got a separate disability survey. They have conducted, and maybe one more survey will be on the pipeline. Maybe it will be conducted in another 2-3 years. But but everything, if we try to include in PLFS, because we have some questions we are trying to add up maybe for education in PLFS that may come. So, so everything adding in the PLFS will be difficult. So that we will have to think and weigh all the options, and then only will decide. Okay. Thank you very much for your concern and for your also appreciation with our results. Thank you.
So we now come to the last session of the conference, which will be in the form of an open discussion where you can ask your questions. In order to answer the questions, we have an opportunity to interact with Shri Siddharth Kundu, Additional Director General of the Household Survey Design, MoSPI, Shri Kishore Kumar, who is again the Additional Director General of the Coordination and Quality Control Division of the NSSO, Shri Sahil Mukhopadhyay, Additional Director General of the Enterprise Survey Division, MoSPI, Ms. Sunita Bhaskar, Additional Director General, Field Operations Division, NSSO, Shri Amitav Saha, Deputy Director General of the Household Survey Design, MoSPI, and Shri Abhishek Guha, Director of the Household Survey Design, MoSPI. I would request all the dignitaries to come up on the stage, please. And Shri Abhishek Guha. Yeah. I would like to invite Dr. Atrey Sinha Chakraborty to felicitate the panelists. Shri Kishore Kumar. Sahil Mukhopadhyay. Sorry, Salil Mukhopadhyay. Miss Sunita Bhaskar. Shri Amitav Saha. Shri Abhishek Guha. Thank you, ma'am. Yes. Ms. Vaibhavi Pingle, who is research scholar at the institute, will be moderating the session.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I hope you have been enjoying this session, learning about different aspects of data. So before opening up the floor for Q&A session, I would like to thank the whole team of NSSO and MoSPI for doing this Herculean task of collecting pan-India data. Even if it is on state level, like we go till the state level, it's an Herculean task. Whoever has involved themselves into data collection will totally understand how impressive their work is. Personally, I have been dealing with PLFS for my PhD work, and I have used all 6 years data, and it had added a great value and deal to my work. So I would like to thank personally and on as a citizen or as a research scholar. And now I open up the question and floor for the question and session. Just few requests. First, because this program is related to PLFS, so we would be talking about PLFS and not other surveys of NSSO. And please keep your questions precise so that our panelists can have an opportunity to answer all the questions. May I request student volunteers to just spread the mic.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much. So I am Nawazuddin from Symbiosis School of Economics. I am faculty there. So I have so many things to say, but as you said, I should be limited. So let me use this time very smartly. So I have 2 comments, 2 questions, and 2 compliments. So the first thing is that earlier in 2011 survey, we used to have land records. Okay, what is the possession of the land with the household? So skipping land is like skipping caste from the survey. Land is that much important variable. So for the pilot, as a pilot, in a mode, once just include for 1 year the land record. Okay, the second thing is that in the 55th round, we used to have job change. Okay, what was your last activity? What was your last occupation? That has again, abandoned. The good thing is that this year, they have came up with very good question. That duration of engagement in the economic activity, that's very good question. But if you ask what was your job change, that is good for the intragenerational mobility. Now I have 2 questions. Number 1, could you please elaborate on the non-response rate? That is the new talk of the town, that NSSO is keep on facing the problem of the non-response rate. So just share the data with us also with the report. So let the researchers, comment on the quality of the data rather than the agency itself would comment on the quality of the data. And why you people are not releasing, I'm very politely asking, the urban unit level data of the urban frame survey. The urban frame survey unit level data is released only of the 2012 and 17. The 15th frame and 17th frame data is there, but not the 18th frame data. Until and unless we don't have the urban frame survey data unit level, that would be a big thing. Now the 2 compliments that I want to give, I have demonstrated and calculated in one of my paper that PLFS is much better than the Indian Human Development Survey when it comes to the employment measurement. Because Indian Human
can we stick to the question part?
Just one compliment. Let me give them compliment. Because, the ISDS is, consists of the part-time data, but you have very good of this because of the PS and all. The last thing is that I must congratulate and compliment the MoSPI because of coming with this .csv format. We have been keep on waiting that one day the .dta file would come, but thank you that now .csv file is there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So, we'll go 1 question, 1 answer. So, panelist, anybody?
Yeah. With regard to non-response, you see, non-response can be of 2 types. It can be of, total non-response, and it can be of item non-response. So total non-response actually, you know, in NSS surveys, it is very nominal because, you know, we follow a systematic method of substitution. So that way, you know, households, non-response of a household altogether in our surveys is not there. And in the unit level data, you will find that whether the original household has been surveyed or the substituted household has been surveyed. So by using that, you yourself can calculate the kind of measure of non-response. So that is possible at the user level itself. So for that, you won't have to depend on us. So that is the precise reason that we do not, you know, publish the non-response rate figures as such. And there are FSU non-response. So FSU non-responses are very nominal, and those will be less than 1%. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Can we have a next round of questions? Yes. Yes.
Please.
Hello, sir.
1 minute.
With regard to your other question regarding non-release of UFS data, so basically UFS is for our internal consumptions in our urban areas. We are using UFS blocks for that is for our own consumptions. But if any private agency want to use that data, so we are giving state governments free, and there are nominal charges for private agency also. So there is no any such formal release of the UFS data. So it is with us. If anybody wants to have data, we will provide state government free, and for private agencies, we are charging a nominal amount.
One issue was raised by earlier panelist, and you have also raised issue of labor mobility in terms of change of industry or change of occupation or change of establishment. We had it in 2011-12 and prior to the surveys of employment and unemployment quinquennial. But indirectly from this PLFS also you can find for the urban areas especially, because what we are doing, we are keeping the same household and same person, we are tracking it for a period of 12 months in 4 visits. So in visit 1, suppose the status was 11, in visit 2 it changes, or in 3rd visit or in 4th visit. Industry also. So out of those information where you are not able to track, comparing when you are comparing with the employment unemployment survey of the quinquennial rounds, here you can track it on varying years, how the person's status and industry is changing over a period of 12 months. So that labor mobility you can calculate directly, in fact, from PLFS.
Thank you, sir. Please stick to precise questions. We can offer compliments when we are having tea with them. Thank you.
Hello, sir. I'm Ajay. I'm PhD student from JIP. My first question is that why PLFS not create the special status for worker like a gig workers? Because most of the data set like CPHS have their own special status for the gig workers, like, and they update day by year to year for the platform workers. And my second question is that PLFS have a panel data for urban areas. Why not for the rural rotating panel? And third, my next question is that what is the implication of using the unpaid workers as a labor force? Because it inflates the only labor for workers. So what is the implication for it, for the researchers and
Thank you, Ajay.
scholars?
Thank you.
Let me address the last one, that why you are considering the unpaid worker into the workforce. Now, let us take resort to what the standards, international standards tell. One of the international standards is the System of National Accounts 2008, which is going to be revised in 2025. And the SNA 2028 tells that the production statistics and labor market statistics should be synchronous. And what does production statistics say? Production statistics consider the production that I produce for my own consumption. So in labor force statistics, you must have it, because it is ultimately the human beings that produce. That goes into the GDP, that's the estimate of GDP. So irrespective of that, whether I produce for my own consumption or it goes to the market, it should be considered into the coverage of the workforce estimate. Okay, fine. The second
Gig workers.
Yeah, gig workers. Now, this is a very interesting topic. In fact, in the present National Industrial Classification, or the of 2008, or the present National Classification of Occupation that we are adopting in 2015, there is no separate category. In fact, since gig worker actually is present across a spectrum of industries, it is not possible to develop a separate industry code for that. That will all not be feasible. But we must know what is gig worker. Who is a gig worker? That depends on so many characteristics. They actually belong in some sort of twilight zone between being a regular wage salaried person and being self-employed. They are not fully self-employed because they don't create their own business. They are dependent for their business interest on some other entities in the economy. But at the same time, they have some characteristics of a self-employed person. They have their own maybe transport equipment, maybe their own bags and other means of production, they are using it. So it is some sort of between characteristics of both self-employed and salaried person. There are some international standards being brought out now to identify, but that requires a lot of testing before being adopted. And if you're very much interested, go through the ICLS recommendation, that is International Labor Statisticians Conference of 20th ICLS. They indirectly tried status in employment. At present, in the status of employment, we are talking about casual labor, regular wage salaried, and self-employed persons. They have some 20 categories of status in employment. And they are the dependent contractor. They, for their running the business, they are dependent on some other entity. But there's a long way to go. This means we obviously have to test at some point of time and find the standards. Thank you very much.
I will also continue with this, that am I audible?
Yes, sir.
On gig workers, on PLFS, Sholil has already explained, but from ASU's Annual Survey of Unincorporated Sector Enterprises, some light can be thrown from the data set of ASU's, where we have compiled some idea about, we have compiled, unit level data is having, that you can compile that thing from the unit level. The problem is that, as Sholil has also mentioned, that gig workers can be self-employed as well as it can be regular wage salaried employee. So, from the self-employed, one can have some idea from the ASU's data. Now, with regard to panel data,
Rotational panel.
Rotational panel for rural data. Now, the issue is we expect, why do we do the panel? Because we expect the change over time. Change over space is okay, but change over time, that is why we do the panel. Now, in urban, we expect that there is quarter-wise variation in employment. But in rural, mostly it is predominantly agriculture. At the scope of change is, when we planned these things in 2017-18, that time we did not recognize this importance. Now we are always thinking about it, and from the next year, we are planning to make panel data with regard to rural also.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Yes, question this corner.
That's why we release the results for rural in annual basis, not on quarterly basis also.
Yeah, sure, please.
Yeah, on the gig worker thing, because it has been raised again and again. Couple of years back. Audible now? Yeah. So what actually it means and what we are trying to impress upon you is that gig is not a function of industry occupation. It is also a function of status in employment, which is not yet defined. So we are still unearthing the standards that is going to capture gig worker unambiguously. So I will leave it there.
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Before the next question, there was one suggestion during the panel discussion regarding district level estimates. So as of now, our sample design and sample size, etc., are for state level estimates only. But the ministry is actively considering expansion from next year for district level?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, questions.
Greetings, everyone. I am Dhruv Kumar from UG batch of this college. My question is, why does the PLS consider the rise in agriculture employment as a positive trend, even though it contradicts the standard development trajectory of labor moving towards more productive non-farm work sectors? Shouldn't the return to agriculture, particularly informal, low-paying jobs, be viewed as a sign of economic regression, as international standard suggests?
See that when the all talks of informality came into existence, then it was thought that this sector is not going to survive for a long time because it does not assure you a regular source of income, as you also mentioned in the very first session. But what has happened? This is the employment of last resort, and this strategy for livelihood. Now, to having a casual type of work may not be as remunerative as producing for own consumption. If the household is producing enough agricultural produce, that's actually helping the household for some period of the year, that may give the household better living strategy than going for a casual labor type of employment. So this will be under the coverage. This is being covered in all the labor force surveys across the world. And for some of the economies who are actually now disowning this type of work as work activity, employment activity, are those economies where these types of activities do not exist. They are very developed economies where their labor force does not depend.
Yes. Good evening to the panel. I am Prathamesh Magar from BSc first year, BSc Economics first year from Gokhale. My question is that recently 5 districts have been announced in the UT of Leh and Ladakh. How does the PLFS deal with the updation of such types of categorization of geographies in the sampling framework?
All the new districts which have come up in the Leh and Ladakh, they are all incorporated in our frame. And as per the district code, new districts when we come, always we update our district codes as per whenever new districts come up with the village with disturbing always. So there is no problem in incorporating the new districts. So all are taken care of in our data. Although whatever districts are there, that are all new and updated. Not only in Leh and Ladakh, in other states also districts have come up. Whenever new districts come up, we try to always incorporate in our sampling frame, and from that frame only we generate our samples. So this is not a problem.
Thank you, sir. Next question.
Greetings to the panel. I am Jeenam, pursuing BSc Economics. My question is, migration-related data was captured in only one survey around 2021-22. Why have we discontinued such a vital information capturing?
Yeah. So, fine. This is working. So. I am really delighted that you are working so much with data. Migration we collected in PLFS recently, in fact, during the COVID year. But let us appreciate one thing, that migration especially matters, that labor force induced migration, labor market induced migration. That is the important migration event for the labor force. And that requires that a stratification, at least at the final stage unit. At the first stage unit, some stratification of the households must be done to adequately capture the households and persons where that labor market induced migration events have taken place. Now in PLFS, if you have gone through the metadata, the stratification is level of education, because one of the most important indicator for any labor force survey is the labor underutilization, unemployment rate. To capture adequately unemployment rate, this is a rare event.
with say 3% unemployment rate, it's a rare event, where labor force participation rate is nearly 60%. To capture that rare event, we need to have a stratification. Similarly, labor market induced migration for female is a rarest. For male, it is a bit universal almost. So we need to have a separate stratification to generate reliable estimates. Now, within the coverage of PLFS, it is almost impossible to do that. We can have some estimate, but reliability of estimates will be very much doubtful. Still, we experimented to see how much we are actually getting this information. But at the same time, you have some information from PLFS. From 78th round also, you will find that we collected information on migration with all the reasons for migration. So maybe we have, just as we did in 64th round in 2007-8, a separate survey on migration. That may be coming at some point in time. But loading PLFS with so many information, just like disability, then again, 2.2% of the population in India, census also tells, we also tell, having these disabilities. Now, to incorporate some of those questions in PLFS will be very difficult. And we know that there is sensitivities and other issues related. We don't want to actually experiment with such a stable survey as PLFS. Thank you.
To add to whatever he has already told, most of the NSS surveys are usually multi-subject surveys. So we collect so many information in one survey, and predominantly in all these surveys, stratification is done. So a kind of principle is being followed for doing the stratification. So in order to collect information on rare characteristics like migration and disability, a kind of generalistic stratification will not serve the purpose. And even if we include these type of questions or items in the surveys, that's why for all these kind of specific actually indicators, we have specific surveys. Like for disability, and moreover, for disability also, now there is a requirement, there is an official definition of disability. So whenever we do a kind of survey of disability, we need to follow that kind of official definition. Otherwise, what will happen, following any kind of arbitrary definition will lead us nowhere.
Thank you, sir. Question? Yes, she was waiting for a long period of time.
Good evening to all the panelists. I'm Ashmita from the UG batch of this college. So my question to you was, in some social security benefit codes such as Code 5, there are overlapping benefits such as maternity benefits, pension, PF, healthcare. So in order to note and understand how many women are actually getting the maternity benefits, how do we segregate the data and estimate the actual number of women who are under the Code 5 maternity benefit scheme?
Actually, regarding the social security benefit, we know that we already have a question in the schedule, but the segregation may not be as per which is desired, which is being suggested. That we are already thinking that how we can improve upon that. But based on the data, because number of persons who are getting this kind of benefit that we don't estimate, everywhere we give an ratio estimate in PLFS. For number of workers, we never bring out, because that stratification is not made accordingly. So estimates, whatever we'll be giving, that may not be that reliable. That's why we always stick to the number of the percentage of estimates. But the in the disaggregate level, what you have suggested, that we already in our contemplation, and we will be taking care of it.
But if you add such question, if we segregate, then it will be very rare population. And as in case of disability, migration, the same problem will crop up. In our sample, we may not get the sufficient number of people got the maternity benefit from our sample data. So otherwise, one alternative is we have to make a second stage stratification may be done, which is not possible under this PLFS. So it will be, our objective is not to get the proportion of or amount of maternity benefit received by the households. Our objective is PLFS things, labor market condition and major key parameters of labor market. So WPR, LFPR and unemployment rate. So in this situation, our objective is why we collect this ESIC and all those things. Because we want to categorize that who are in formal employment and who are not in formal employment. For that, we collect this information. So, I mean, identifying this person who have got the maternity, who has got the maternity benefit, will be rare, and collecting this information, it may be in the data set, but that will not be reliable. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Yes, one last question.
I have a question. Can we include how many years of experience or how many years you are working on same job, and how many hours in a day you are working, and can we include?
Duration is already there. Duration of employment or unemployment.
No. I'm saying how many hours you are, if you are working, how many hours you are working for a job. Like so it is for
already there.
it is for casual worker. I'm talking about those are
All workers.
all workers.
We don't discriminate between the workers. We all collect information among all workers.
Okay.
So it's not only for casual workers. For all workers, we collect number of hours working in current weekly status. We collect that. It is in the schedule. Please.
It's a for weekly week. It is for everyone. So and can we include how many week off you are getting in a month?
Yes, I think that information is there in the instructions to field staff. If you read that document, you will find the information.
So whatever you are mentioning, that is, so in the current weekly status, we actually collect the number of hours in the activities that he has worked. And there are tabulation, if you go to the appendix tables that is given, so there are tabulations on average number of hours work, in fact, average number of days worked in a week, average number of hours available for additional work, average number of hours in which he actually worked. So these kind of tabulations are there. So I think this observation is a little misplaced. Thank you.
I have one question.
Thank you.
I have one question. So my name is Satisha. So I am a research associate at Gokhale Institute. Correct me if I am wrong. So earlier we used to have a central and state sample separate, where state also used to draw independent sample following NSSO definition, and also there are a lot of discussion about pooling these two data
Be
sets.
precise.
Yeah, I want to know whether it's discontinued later. So
It's not there as of now.
It's
not there.
For generating sample for center state was there in our rounds, all we used to generate, but for PLFS it's not, it is a separate survey. Only the states, if they are also express their intention to participate in PLFS, but that we are also thinking, it is in the discussion stage, how they will be participating, how we can extend help to them. So, so till now it is only confined to central samples only for
And I will now invite Shri M.S. Subramanya Rao, Deputy Director General of the Coordination and the Quality Control Division of NSSO, to present a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Madam. I don't want to stand between the tea, high tea and the session. I will try, but this is the time to express our gratitude for the organizers. As we reach the concluding session of this enriching and stimulating data user conference on PLFS at this historical institute, it's my great pleasure and privilege to present vote of thanks. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Vijay Kelkar, a senior economist and a former vice president of Indian Statistical Institute. Sir, your insightful address today set the perfect tone for discussions that followed. Your vast experience in economic policy and governance continue to inspire and guide us in harnessing the data to drive meaningful socio-economic policies. Your presence here has been immense privilege and an honor to all of us. Next, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ajit Ranade, special guest and a Vice Chancellor of Gokhale Institute. Sir, your emphasis on understanding the health of the labor market has been well taken, and we will be focusing on that. A special note of appreciation goes to our Secretary, MoSPI, Dr. Saurabh Garg, for your leadership, vision, and continued support. Your commitment in fostering evidence-based policy making is shaping the success of this conference. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the panelists of today's discussion session, Dr. Anurag Asawa, Professor, Gokhale Institute, Sri Kiran Lime, Assistant Professor, Ms. Rosa Abraham, Assistant Professor, Azim Premji Institute, and Nilanjan Chatterjee, DDG NSSO. My heartfelt thanks to all the participants from state governments, various ministries, institutions, international organizations, research institutions, and media representatives, especially the students of Gokhale Institute and the people who have joined online. Your engagement and thoughtful contribution have enriched today's discussion, making a conference a truly collaborative effort. I would like to extend a special acknowledgement and a big round of applause to the incredible staff of the Gokhale Institute under the leadership of Anurag Aswaha for providing, sir, your meticulous planning and a dedicated team has been an important feature in making this event a truly successful one. We are grateful for your team's dedication providing such a conducive environment for the discussions today. At this juncture, I must acknowledge the tireless efforts of the team NSSO led by DG Madam. We could not deliver these results timely and effectively without the leadership. And also, I would like to acknowledge the efforts made by the Zonal Office of Nagpur and the RO Pune for facilitating the arrangements for this event. I also want to thank rapporteurs for today's session, and a special thanks to media for the coverage and publicity of this event. Once again, I thank all the participants and for your contributions. If for any feedback on this issue, we have displayed the email ID. We can send the feedback at this email ID. Thank you all. Please join us for a high tea.